Republicans in Michigan vying to be the next gubernatorial selection to take on, to of course go into the race to become Michigan's next governor are facing a huge forgery scandal. According to the state's Bureau of Elections, at least 2 GOP primary candidates are not qualified to be on the ballot. Why? Well, it appears that there are thousands of invalid signatures on their on their ballot access to allow them to be on the ballot. So Michigan law requires that 15,000 verified signatures be gathered, and about 100 of those signatures need to be from at least half of the state's congressional districts. Now, every candidate is allowed to submit up to 30,000 of those for review, giving you some, room for error, right? So just in case some of those signatures are not what they appear to be, or they were invalid, or there's some issue, people die, etc., then at least you have a very comfortable window of being able to hit that 15,000 threshold. Now, both leading Republican candidates submitted well above the 15,000 signatures required. However, they were subsequently hit with complaints that their counts contained some fraudulent signatures. Fake people that don't exist, dead people. All the stuff that Republicans seem to complain about that's happening on the Democrat side seems to be happening on their side. Interesting. Now, of course, before we get into that, let's get into the details. According to the Bureau's report on Monday, campaign workers were hired to collect signatures, known as circulators, submitted at least 68,000 invalid signatures across nominating petitions for 10 candidates. So now let's start out here with candidate James Craig, a Republican candidate that was also the former Detroit chief of police. He submitted more than 11,100 invalid signatures and just under 10,200 valid ones, according to the Bureau's report. So more fake signatures than real signatures, or more fake people than real people. Great. Bureau staff noted consistent handwriting for the entirety of a petition sheet, including signatures and evidence of roundtabling, or the practice of passing a petition sheet around to a group in order to make entries appear more authentic. Still, a lot of the signatures contained incorrect addresses, misspelled names, according to different reports. Another candidate, Perry Johnson, submitted nearly 14,000. You're so close. 14,000 out of 15,000 valid signatures, but over 9,000 invalid signatures. It's over 9,000. It's over 9,000. The fraud, so much fraud. The power levels are way up here. The same group of petitioned circulators who submitted thousands of invalid signature pages for Craig's campaign also did so for Johnson's. That's interesting. 3 additional Republican gubernatorial candidates also fell far short of the valid signatures needed to qualify. The Bureau said Michael Brown, Michael Markey, and Donna Brandenburg each submitted more than 15,000 signatures, but in all 3 cases, more than 10,000 of them were deemed invalid. This means that nearly half of all Republican candidates could very well be disqualified. Oops. So now here's the thing about this. It turns out it might not be their fault, to be fair. So, and the reason that I say that, I point that out, is because they could have simply fallen for a scam. Now remember, all these campaigns have to pay these circulators to gather signatures. And so these circulators could have been like, I don't know, I'll just fake them so I can get paid. I don't know. Honestly, I mean, again, this is a lot of speculation on my part, but I do have to note that the prices for these circulators have spiked. A little bit of inflation going on, maybe as a result of COVID, And so, they're jacking up their prices and maybe doing a little bit of fraud. I don't know. Again, I don't know. There's no evidence that that the candidates or campaigns had actually known about this, but I'm also not discounting that some might have tried to get more signatures just to be able to get ballot access. I don't know. This has the seeds of a conspiracy. I'm just saying. The ultimate decision, however, in the candidates' qualifications for office is up to the Michigan Board of State Canvassers, which is made up of 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans and is set to meet on Thursday of this week. So now, big scandal going on. Half of all the Republican candidates could be disqualified and not even be able to run. Now, there are political implications. I'll get to that. But first, let's go to the reaction here from some of the campaigns. In fact, one campaign vowed to fight for the qualification on Monday. The staff of Democrat Secretary of Staff does not have the right to unilaterally void every single signature obtained by the alleged forgers who victimized 5 campaigns, says John Yob, a consultant for Johnson. Writing, quote, "We strongly believe they are refusing to count thousands of signatures from legitimate voters who signed the petitions and look forward to winning this fight before the board and, if necessary, in the courts." So that's the Johnson campaign. Now, what's interesting is, look, the staff, and this is, again, context matters, right? Facts matter. The staff did not review every petition sheet individually. Rather, they isolated the sheets submitted by petition circulators whose work they determined was fraudulent and conducted a targeted signature check to confirm that the circulators' submissions were in fact full of fraudulent entries. So these campaigns are just focusing on that part and say, well, yeah, they didn't look at every single one of them. Okay, well, what happens when they do look at every single one of them? Already the board says, no, these are full of fraudulent signatures. We're pretty certain that if we have to go through all of them, line by line, every name by name, we're going to find the same result. We are very confident here that there is a lot of fraud going on. We found the fraud, so much fraud. Now, some of these candidates are also alleging a little bit of a political motive, yet the report noted that at this time, the Bureau does not have a reason to believe that any specific candidates or campaigns were aware of the activities of fraudulent petition circulators. Again, it could be they got screwed over for cash by people who were too lazy to go out and do their jobs. Certainly, that's happened before. Now, if that were the case, then I would expect some lawsuits against these circulators. And we have yet to see those. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they're waiting to see what the decision is, whether or not they're going to be allowed to run on the ballot. Not sure. Now, there are more details about Craig's campaign. According to a Democratic Party-backed complaint filed by former Democratic leader Mark Brewer, and this is back in April, Craig's campaign submitted nearly 7,000 forged signatures as part of his 21,000 signature total. More than 2,000 of them had issues, including 30 allegedly signed in the names of deceased or dead voters, according to the same complaint. We got dead people. Yep, dead people. I'm pretty sure dead people cannot sign petitions. Just saying. Now, were the Republicans concerned about voter integrity? Were the Republicans that are concerned about dead people doing fraud? Where are they? Now, Craig's campaign admitted earlier this month that, you know what, we actually kind of knew that we, submitted some invalid signatures, but we got way more valid than invalid. Quote, "The allegation that the handful of circulators defrauded the Craig campaign and Michigan voters is troubling, but the proof will ultimately be found in a careful comparison between petition and qualified voter file, or MasterCard signatures," an attorney representing the campaign, Edward Green, told the Detroit Free Press. He did not, of course, respond to questions by, I believe it's the Michigan Advance. Now, I don't know. For me, it seems like a little bit more than a handful, my dude. I mean, obviously enough to kick you off ballot access. In fact, here's what Brewer told Talking Points Memo. Quote, I've been practicing election law in the state since the 80s, and I've never seen forgery on this scale. We got massive fraud. It's tremendous fraud, more fraud than you would ever have seen before. Just tremendous amounts of fraud. We need to stop the count. We need to figure out what the hell is going on. Suddenly, for some reason, though, when it seems to be happening on the Republican side, when it's Republicans versus Republicans, they don't seem to care about fraud. Weird. It's weird how that works out. Another Democratic Party-backed complaint alleges that, among other issues, Johnson's campaign had submitted at least 66 signatures in the names of dead voters. The campaign appeared to have hired several of the same signature gatherers that had submitted allegedly fraudulent petitions for the Craig campaign. So now, my question is, why are you all hiring the same people to do petitions, to gather your petitions? That's sort of curious to me. Okay, you're hiring the same people. Why? I mean, look, maybe this is standard practice, and I don't necessarily know that they all just kind of hire the same people, or those are the only people that do this, which would suggest that there's a massive problem in the state of Michigan if the only people out here that can do this are people that are collecting fraudulent signatures. So that's a big problem. The same signature gatherers also appeared on other challenge petition sheets submitted across several different campaigns. What is going on here? What is going on? Again, this doesn't make sense that they would be sharing gatherers or hiring from the same people that are working on other campaigns, because all of these campaigns are supposed to be against each other. They're fighting for the Republican nomination to become the next governor. I don't understand. I don't know. It could be, again, the situation where these circulators are basically gathering, from all sides and playing all sides in order to make cash. I have no idea. I don't know the details for certain. However, Brewer said there's no question these forgers were making a pretty good living, working on several different campaigns and doing the same thing over and over and over again, or in this case, signing the same names over and over and over and over again. So, what's going to happen? Again, Talking Point Memo reports the findings announced Monday do not automatically disqualify the candidates. That decision is actually up to the 4-member board of state canvassers. Now, that is the same body that faced pressure from former President Donald Trump to not certify the election of 2020 over fraud. Okay. Now, that said, after that, one Republican board member, Norman Schinkel, had abstained from the certification process in 2020. That vote. The other Republican, Aaron Van Langenveld, voted to certify Biden's win and was subsequently replaced by the Republican Party by a man named Tony Daunt. Daunt told Bridge, Michigan earlier this month that whether I agree with the candidate, whether I'll disagree with the candidate, if they haven't met the requirements of the law, then they're not fit to run for office or to have ballot access. But again, pretty sus that you are the guy who replaced another person for certifying Joe Biden's win. I mean, specifically for that reason. And look, here's where it gets into speculation, right? So there's politics at play. Now, if the Board of State Canvassers feeds the Bureau of Elections report and disqualifies half of the Republicans that are running, it could open the door for a pro-Trump candidate named Tudor Dixon. Tudor Dixon happens to be, again, an election denier, a 2020 election denier, and is backed and bankrolled by the DeVos family. Oh, that's interesting. So now, I don't know, could this be a way to clear the field for Dixon? Maybe. Or could it just be grifters out there to screw all these different campaigns for cash? Again, I don't know. I think we need a little bit of an investigation. The fascinating story. Certainly could have some pretty significant electoral ramifications, especially since we are right in the middle of primary season. We'll have to see. We'll have to see.